The cyclists start at the Qatar Foundation to the west of the city centre. They cover just over 20 kilometres through the city before they reach the man-made island of the Pearl, which is where the vast majority of the race will take place. Once they're onto the Pearl, they will complete 7 laps of a 15.2 kilometre circuit. It's full of turns, curves and roundabouts. It's the same circuit used in all of the other races, including the time trials earlier in the week. And the total distance, 134.1 kilometres, and the route is fast, flat and technical. A route which is highly likely to produce a sprint finish. We have a look at the start list here. Lizzie Deignan there leading the way, wearing the number 1 as she is the defending world champion. A strong 8-rider British team, but the Dutch team, Rochelle, looks really strong. Any number of those riders could end up with the rainbow jersey.
It's really an incredible Dutch team for the World Championships this year. Like you said, Simon, every single rider on that team potentially could win this World Championship. 25 there, Giorgia Bronzini. Big news about her, the Italian rider, one of your riders too at Wiggle High Five. Absolutely devastating for Giorgia Bronzini, and that's just how sport goes. 2 days ago, she was on target to win this World Championship, take her 3rd world title on the road, and everything just fell apart yesterday. She got either food poisoning or affected by the heat and started to be sick, really sick, and throughout the night didn't get any better. So she won't be starting today for the Italians. And I can really feel for an athlete that normally can get their preparation spot on, but there's those outside influences that can bring everything tumbling down in the last moment. So absolutely devastating news for Giorgia Bronzini. We look at the rest of the field here, and David, weather conditions today, predictably sun's out, but how does it compare with earlier in the week?
I don't know whether we're getting acclimatized slightly, but actually no, it still feels like we're in the desert. It's still incredibly hot, and it really is a kind of subtle difference between it being hot or scorcher, and I think at the moment we're kind of in between hot and scorcher.
Yeah, we're touching scorcher here, aren't we? This is a rare opportunity for sprinters though, isn't it? I mean, it's the same with the men as for the women. Opportunities for the sprinters in the World Championships only come around every few years, don't they, really?
Yeah, they really do. I mean, it seems to be about every 4 or 5 years it happens. I mean, the last one was Copenhagen, and before that it was Zolder. So that's 3 times in the last 13 years. So it really is a rare opportunity for the sprinters, and one that they don't want to miss out on. And as Rochelle said, for Bronzini, it's devastating, because you don't know when the next one's going to come about.
And the women's road race is underway. Lizzie Deignan there on the front row with a couple of her teammates. She was the rider furthest from the camera as they roll off from the Qatar Foundation.
Well, that's Tracy Gaudry, the Vice President of the UCI, and one woman who's put so much effort into developing women's cycling at a global level, and the introduction of a world tour this year. So the UCI flag by Tracy Gaudry has just been dropped. Already mechanical there.
Barbara Prudkova, I think that is, from the Czech Republic, who has had a mechanical issue at precisely the wrong moment.
That was a very bad timing, because often what happens if you have a mechanical in the neutral zone, they'll hold the start until you're back on, but she really must have had it as the flag was dropping.
Eri Yonamine from Japan, I think that is, who's gone off the front.
Oh, great to see her out there having a go right from the start. She's more well suited to a little bit of a hillier style, of course. She was did her country very proud at the Olympic Games to finish the race. A very respectable position. But a flat race like this, it's interesting when you get climbers that say, okay, it doesn't suit me, but I'm going to go out there and have a go. Anything can happen, but very brave move.
And that poor old rider from the Czech Republic's chasing already with 133.5k to go, having had a mechanical issue at the side of the road.
You can see the size of these roads, that deters attacks as well, because it's so easy when you're sitting in the bunch on a road like this. If it was a bit more windy, smaller roads, then we might see people attacking, but I think you seriously are wasting energy, and I think it will be a case. Judging by the fact nobody's reacting immediately to Yonamine, I think you're going to find that they're going to wait to the Pearl to race.
National champion of Japan on the road. Her form's pretty good coming here. She was 5th overall in the Tour of the Ardèche, and we have a crash already, and it's Noura Almiri from Kuwait.
Oh, it looks like she may have done a collarbone there. when you put your hand straight up to support your shoulder or your collarbone. But
what a shame that her race hasn't lasted very long at all. Barely a couple of minutes after the flag has dropped, and we have our first casualty here.
Well, look, Audrey Cordon of France, the time trial champion, wants a bottle. That's why she was moving to the front. And this is Eileen Rowe now of GB, just picking up the pace there. You can see Danny King, she's always well positioned there at the front as well. She'll be such an instrumental part of the result for GB today.
That rider from Ethiopia there, just trying to get a bottle off anybody who is prepared to provide one. I think there's not a great deal of support for some of these smaller nations, smaller cycling nations here.
Oh, so many riders so early in the race, desperate to take on some more bottles.
And still Gebru of Ethiopia just cannot get a bottle off anybody at the moment.
Oh dear.
Well, she will need to get some fluid from somewhere.
Certainly looks like a dangerous place to be down the back of the peloton in the feed zone. Some bags also there being handed out.
There must be some arrangement for the Ethiopian team, though, surely.
Surely it must be.
There must be.
You can see the expressions on the faces of these riders is somewhat different to how it would normally be in the first 30 or 40 kilometres of a race, just due to the heat. You can see that it's just such a challenge and it's uncomfortable.
Oh, well, that's good to see.
Yeah, nice to... it was difficult for that rider to take a bottle during the feed. There was a lot of chaos going on, but there's roving cars out there of Shimano handing out water. In some of the men's races, they ran out halfway through the race, but the
and
riders...
a sticky bottle at that.
A sticky bottle that... For those of you that don't know, a sticky bottle is when the rider hangs onto that bottle for a little bit longer than they need to, just to get a bit of help.
Just to make sure they're not going to drop it.
I think that could be your Olympic gold medalist, Anna van der Breggen there on the front.
Looks like, is that Mika Kroger chasing her, the German champion? So Nicole Hanselmann then from Switzerland, very quick to jump across. And now we have two leaders out on the road. Hanselmann riding on her own today. To all intents and purposes, the only rider with a Swiss jersey on her back in this women's elite field.
Well, it is Anna van der Breggen controlling things back in the peloton. The German rider, Kroger. And you see Trixie Warwick now, just in the middle of your screen there, of Germany, one of the most experienced riders in this peloton. She's an outside chance for a world championship just based purely on her experience. And Trixie Warwick had a devastating accident earlier this year where she slid under a guardrail and had to have an emergency operation to remove a kidney. And that was what everyone thought would be the end of her career, but she came back and...
She was back racing by June, wasn't she? Only happened in March.
And winning. So, you know, these stories of these athletes that have these accidents and surgeries that you think would prevent them from, you know, racing at elite level again in any sport, they're back so quickly because their bodies are just so fit when they have these accidents that they repair themselves and heal. So, this is the race favourite.
Here's a crash, and it is Kirsten Wild who's down. Kirsten Wild from the Netherlands, one of the big favourites to win today, and also on the ground, Elsia Ratajczak from Poland.
Oh, this will be interesting to see how Kirsten Wild reacts mentally to this, because it can be, you know, really play on your mind, even if there's no injuries. You know, like it's a bad day. How can it be my bad luck? Let's have a look at the replay here. Oh, just on the outside of the roundabout there.
It was pretty slow, low speed.
Yes.
Yeah, she's on back up before.
It was a slow speed tumble, wasn't it, there?
Yeah, it just got all twisted
And very, very calm as well, putting both of the bottles back into her bike, picking that one up off the ground you see there. So very relaxed, very calm, professional.
And Roxanne Knetemann there to just almost held up by that as well, but very quick to spot that her teammate was caught up in it and to hang back to help to drag her back up towards the peloton. As you can see, no damage done, but a scary, anxious little moment there for one of the favourites for the race. Number 16, Kirsten Wild. No significant breaks in terms of how this result is likely to pan out, although we do have two leaders out in front at the moment. Nicole Hanselmann of Switzerland and Eri Yonamine from Japan. And their lead, as you can see, 30 seconds over Paz Bash, rider from Israel, who we're looking at now. But one would imagine that plenty is set to happen between now and the finish of the race, and the Dutch are having a little go off the front again here. Now, is that Hannah Barnes chasing
Hannah Barnes,
down?
yeah. So that's interesting. As we said before, Netherlands and Great Britain are going to mark each other out. Neither of them are going to let the other team go. So the other teams have to profit off that. If they see them going, they can let them. They know that if a Netherlands riders go, they know a GB rider is going to chase, and similarly the opposite as well.
Well, Hannah Barnes was very quick there to get on the Dutch rider's tail.
Well, it's Marianne Vos, so known as one of the, the best female cyclists in the world, and Hannah Barnes obviously had the role and the job to mark that, because not many people have the power to kick and to respond to a move of Marianne Vos, but Hannah Barnes has successfully done that.
We can see Vos there really stringing the peloton out very, very quickly.
It looked like it was Germany that then brought it back again. So the big teams are all there looking at each other, making sure, and as you said, the fact it's Marianne Vos, nobody's going to let Marianne Vos go. So it's but interesting that she wants to light up the race and start to turn the screw a little bit, because Netherlands are being quite active. They seem to be the most active of the big teams so far.
Marianne Vos, 3 times the world champion, 5 times second. We have this sort of vision of Vos winning everything all the time, like some sort of, the Eddie Merckx of women's cycling, but she didn't always come first. And the Netherlands now, it's almost like a relay here, where they're just constantly testing the legs of all the other riders in the peloton.
Well, they're obviously wanting to toughen the race up as much as possible. And now the other teams will be aware that's what they want to do. They now know what the Netherlands tactic is they want to rip it to pieces.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of thinning out so far, has there, in this field at all, really?
No, not until now, but like Dave just said, that the Netherlands have really made it evident now that they are not going to just roll along and put all their cards onto Kirsten Wild, their big sprinter, but they've got Marianne Vos, Hannah van der Breggen, Annemiek van Vleuten, Ellen van Dijk. Such a strong team. We've seen Amy Peters and Ken Nederman at the front. That's Amy Peters to the right of your screen. And another attack now by the Netherlands. This is Ellen van Dijk. This one everyone will want to respond to.
Yeah, they're all going to go with that one, because they know once Van Dijk disappears up the road, she will take some bringing back. And as you can see, very quick the response, but also she strings the field out rapidly.
And Lizzie Dignan's now coming quite present as well. She's in about 6th or 7th place there. So the big riders are coming out to play, and they're seeing what's happening. They understand the tactics, and I think it's becoming quite evident that Netherlands aren't going to stop until it does split.
Feels like the race is just really getting started now, doesn't it? With this activity on the front now.
It's been a big question mark about which nation will really want to make this hard, and we didn't really know if the Netherlands would want to, because they have Kirsten Wild, a pure sprinter. She's known as the Queen of Qatar. She's won so many races out here in the desert.
Look how quickly, though, Rochelle, they've managed to bridge that gap.
So it's Lizzie Dignan at the front as well.
Yeah.
So she's actually starting to push it a bit as well. Marianne Vos, Lizzie Dignan, Hannah Barnes up there, Van Dijk. So it really is.
Well, Lizzie Dignan's on the radio now, but that's one indication of how Lizzie is in really, really good form, which is fantastic to see after the Olympics and the emotional season that she's had, to just be on top form. Ellen van Dijk's possibly the strongest rider in the race, and Lizzie Armitstead just
That's Abby May Parkinson there, sorry, Rochelle, Abby May Parkinson pulling over at the side of the road for a quick wheel change.
That's a bad time for her with the attacking going on at the front, because it's going to take her a while to get back on.
Marianne Vos again at the front.
Marked by the Italians, Great Britain's there, America, Sweden, Germany, all the big nations. But Marianne Vos and Lizzie Dignan, they're the two that are really wanting to ignite this race and split it up.
Well, as you were both saying earlier, for Lizzie Armitstead, the harder the race is, the better. And this is not good, is it, for Abby May Parkinson, having to stand at the roadside for this amount of time when the race is at the point that it's at, and this is a very slow change.
What's happened? They're going to change the skewers over. There's something wrong with the skewer, so that's a shame. This is going to make her life very difficult.
Well, look, this is the reason why it's great that the nations that do qualify 8 riders like GB do bring a full complement and all the riders to fill those spots, because anything can happen, and this type of thing could happen to 2 or 3 riders. And this is Amber Neben, the winner of the time trial out here, making the race hard, and you can see how much work's having to be put in the peloton to bring this one back. She's in fine form. the current individual time trial world champion, Amber Neben, chased down by Amy Peters of the Netherlands.
Yeah, Kroger again from Germany, marshalling at the front.
Starting to split a bit at the front. So in order, on a course like this, in order for it to split apart, the attacks have to be relentless, and you can't give up. You can't go soft, if you like, tactically. You just have to keep pushing it and do what the Netherlands do, which is attack after attack, and it starts to draw out the strongest riders, as we see Amber Neben up there. And then we do see, good work by Danny King's up there, she's in third place. So GB are represented. But there's just a little gap. We've got 2 riders there, GB, actually, in that small split.
Well, it looked like the Belgian rider there had to close that gap for Jolien Daughter, their sprinter. But now it's just going to be a matter of which riders are strong enough. Like you said, Dave, it's very hard to split this up on a course like this, but which rider has really got the form and the legs and gets the timing right to be able to split this race up.
So it looks like King and Barnes up there for Great Britain.
And this is one of the interesting things in a circuit like this, because if it was a hilly circuit, or you'd have key moments where people would attack, they'd always wait for the hill, wait for the climb. Here it's simply relentless, and you can't predict where it's going to go exactly. They may find as they go around the circuit each time that there is a section where there's a headwind or a slight crosswind, or there's a series of corners that makes it more difficult, and they'll learn that as the race goes on. But they really have to. You have to have a strong team that's willing to attack after attack after attack, because it will only eventually split when everybody's on their hands and knees, and that's when you really have to push it hard.
And here we are in the middle of the peloton with Nicole Hanselman, who was of course at the front with Eri Yonamine just a few moments ago, but now a little split off the front of the race here.
And Lizzie Deignan there coming across as well, so she's really sensing that it's starting to happen now.
Well, that's Marianne Vos that's applying the pressure, and you can see the Swedish rider Emmy Johansson. These are the strongest riders in the world that are making this race difficult on a flat circuit, which is really exciting to see, because they're known as, being stronger on those hilly type of circuits. But Marianne Vos, Lizzie Deignan, Emmy Johansson, the Italian rider in there, we haven't picked up her number yet, but Elisa Longo Borghini, former winner of Tour of Flanders, is in the peloton for Italy. Oh, you can see the damage that has done. Lizzie Deignan on the front there, followed by Marianne Vos.
And Lizzie looks very comfortable, doesn't she? And
this is where it has to go again, and the American rider goes. So it's one of these moves, and it might be, the riders that big, but everybody marks them out. But you now need a counter-attack with perhaps this isn't disrespectful, but the slightly lower, the B quality riders, and that's the sort of moves that can go.
Well, there's so many riders under pressure now that it's likely to split quite soon if the Netherlands keep applying the pressure. And that's the World Tour winner, Megan Garnier, on second wheel from America. She's had a sensational season. Just a disappointing result for her at the Olympics, but Olympics aside, she's had a phenomenal season, winning the Giro d'Italia, the national championships again.
Meanwhile, further back, the usual chaos as riders try to grab a bottle. Ali Dragou there from USA, taking her time, making sure she doesn't leave the feed zone empty-handed. But the real action's taking place further up the road, and at times in the last 5 minutes it's been quite a panicked reaction behind.
Well, we've seen the biggest guns in the race come out, and I'm getting the impression that this is going to be a very aggressive race, and there were mixed predictions. I mean, as there always is the world, it's very hard to know what's going to go on until the actual race, because everyone's like, well, this is a sprinter's course, will be a bunch sprint. But then you can see if the tactics change, then it can become anything. And I often find sometimes these courses which people claim to be sprinters end up being the best races, because it does force interesting tactics, unpredictable, and that's what's happening now.
55.8 kilometres to go then in this women's elite road race, and the defending champion Lizzie Deignan from Great Britain is up towards the front. The British team are prominent, the Dutch keep attacking, they are animating the race, the British among others constantly responding, but they're not forcing the issue themselves. Abby May Parkinson, who had a rear wheel problem just a little while ago, has managed to fight her way back into the peloton. There's Danny King and Hannah Barnes on the front. And on the right of your picture there, just adjusting the skin suit, Mika Kroger from Germany. There's Lizzie Deignan just behind her, behind the two German riders at the front. Emma Johansson there, having something to eat with the yellow-shouldered jersey. And we ride now with Nicole Hanselmann, the only Swiss rider in the race, who was in the lead with Eri Yonamine a little earlier on, but the pair of them reeled back in once the big names started to show their faces at the front. Armitstead as was, Deignan now, and Marianne Vos among them, showing some attacks which just made life difficult for those behind in the main peloton as the race winds its way around the Pearl.
It's been interesting that the Italians have not been so active, because at the World Championships they normally really take control of the races over the past 10 years, but we wonder if the absence of Giorgia Bronzini, their leader and captain on the road, if that's affected and hurt them today, because we haven't seen much of the Italians. Yeah,
it's right. Sometimes that can happen when you've been so dedicated to one tactic and one race strategy, then overnight it completely changes because your leader is sick and they can't even start the race. Then it really does set the cat amongst the pigeons. The team does lose its direction slightly, and I think that's what we're seeing with the Italians today.
Well, they also have Bastianelli, who's a very good sprinter and has won some smaller UCI races, but against some really great sprinters this year. So she has a chance of being on the podium, and even an outside chance for the victory should this come down to a big bunch sprint. What do you think, Dave, at some point during this race? The Netherlands are obviously going to light it up again and try to hurt the peloton and split it up, but will there be a point where the Netherlands gets tired from attacking and it all sits up and comes down to a sprint, or do you think it's just going to be aggressive right to the line?
Yeah, I was wondering whether they're going to actually get counter-attacked. The danger is when GB and Netherlands are marking each other out so badly, which we can see at the moment and what we've been seeing the last 2 laps, is that at some point perhaps they'll drop their guard down slightly and they'll get counter-attacked by, say, the Italians or the Australians, and then they'll find themselves stuck looking at each other while a move goes up the road. And that's often, you've got to be careful of that, because you become so focused on one tactic, on one race situation, that you miss something else happen. And another team could be thinking that, well, we know Netherlands aren't going to go without GB riders, so let's just keep watching them doing that. Wait till they get tired, then we're going to go as hard as we can. But that has to be a tactic that's made up on the road. And if you were smart and you had relationships in the peloton, you might go and speak to another team and go, well, why don't we just let them do that, let them play and do all their things, and let's counter together and work together to try and beat them.
Well, I'm sure there is a number of riders that are in the peloton thinking, I'm just going to wait, stay relaxed, very, very patient, wait and see if the moment presents itself to take advantage of all the attacking and hard work that the Netherlands are doing.
Heidi Dalton there with an onboard camera.
I really love the onboard camera views that we've had during this World Championship from the other races as well. When there's incidents that happen in the peloton, it gives a really good view to the spectators of how these things unfold in the peloton, and just how little movement you have in the peloton around the wheels that are in front of you or next to you.
Yeah, it definitely opens it up in a way that nobody's seen it before unless you've actually raced in a peloton. You see kind of the chaos of it all. I think when we get in the sprints is the best, when you see the lead-out trains and them shouting at each other and how frantic it all is in there. So you get a whole new appreciation of what those guys are doing.
At the moment, no sign that anyone's going to manage to get away and form a little lead group. At the moment, we're still...
Well, I think we're seeing, because people aren't tired enough now, that those flurries of attacks that lasted for probably about half an hour, 40 minutes, it will have taken the edge off some people. Now, some people are going to pay the price for that, but then you have a lull like this and everyone can fuel again and recharge and kind of recalibrate. You need to kind of keep it pushing so hard so everyone starts to go over their threshold and basically not be able to fuel properly, put them under stress. But it's easier said than done, because you need such a strong team. I mean, 8 riders. You need 8 riders basically going one after the other constantly, and that requires 8 riders on form, motivated, willing to gamble a little bit, because only 1 or 2 of them will actually pay
no
off.
Other team has committed to joining them.
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's just the Dutch so far. So if there was another team that was contributing, then we'd have a race in our hands, because let's say Great Britain decided to, instead of riding that defensive game, let's call it, against the aggressive game of Netherlands. If they started doing racing aggressively as well, then we'd start to see it ripped to pieces.
Just saw Amber Neben and Corin Rivera down towards the back of the peloton there from the United States. Little conversation between a couple of the Belgian riders.
Well, they'll certainly be very motivated, these two young Belgian riders, because they have a rider in the peloton, Jolien Dorder, who's very, very capable of winning this World Championship. And the way the race is playing out, the closer they get to the finish, the more confident Jolien Dorder and the likes of Chloe Hosking and Kirsten Wild will become. But it's the Netherlands again on the attack with Amy Pieters. And she's been the rider that has been appointed to making this race hard, because we've seen her. Actually, I could be wrong here. This could be Annemiek van Vleuten,
isn't it? Yeah.
It is the rider that was leading the Rio Olympic Games and had that horrific crash on the final descent. And we haven't seen much of her today, but Annemiek van Vleuten is really putting the pressure down here.
She actually races with the Australian outfit, doesn't she? The Orica AIS team. That's why her helmet is the same as the Australian rider is right behind her. So Van Vleuten then on the front for the Netherlands.
Well, she
just
had
over 50k to go.
Originally big plans to retire after the Rio Olympics, but given that she had that accident and really demonstrated to herself that she has the ability to win an Olympic game, she's decided to kick on, signed another year contract with Orica AIS, and it'll be interesting to see how many more years she goes. But she certainly did prove that she has the ability still to get herself into peak form, and at the Rio Olympic Games she was definitely the strongest rider in that race.
Why would you want to retire when you're riding as clearly as strongly as she is? You know, you must put so much in over so many years to reach the point that she's at, and still riding very, very strongly. And again, the Dutch are going for it once more.
Well, this time it is Amy Pieters, but the Dutch, they have not stopped now with the attacking, and then the only nation that really wants to make this hard. And it's interesting because they have the fastest sprinter in this race in Kirsten Wild, but they are the nation that has the, the big numbers, the strength in numbers, and it's very hard for them to break this up, but it looks like they're going to keep attacking.
Yeah, and yet, look, there's never a counter-attack. So
no.
It's the Netherlands are counter-attacking themselves.
But interestingly, Italy and Australia are both more prominent in their response now than they were a little bit earlier when these attacks first started coming.
I think they now understand what's going on. Danny King there, glued to the wheel. Is it Marianne Vos?
It's Vos again. Marianne Vos going for it from the Netherlands, and this means it's going to be really tough for those behind to try and follow in her wheel tracks. But immediately straight onto her is...
And this is the little gaps opening up. See, it's getting to the point where people are getting tired. They can't quite get on the wheel quite as quickly. The gaps are opening, especially when it's a rider like Marianne Vos. Now, what the thing is, and this is where the race instinct comes in, when attack goes at this point, and now we have Danny King actually contributing, so that's good. She's seen the gap and she's understood, and that's good tactics from her, because before there was no point in contributing. But Marianne Vos has done the work, caused a split, now contribute to it. But yeah, as I was saying, it's a case of the Netherlands have to continue doing this, and occasionally bring out Marianne Vos after every third or fourth attack. So let the other riders sort of weaken it up, and then send your real strong rider out.
Just trying to see who the Italian rider is who's with them, actually, with King and Vos. The gap is being closed, and it's Australia doing it, but it's just starting to splinter behind towards the final third of the peloton, final quarter of the peloton. Look how strung out they are as well now.
And one of the things as well, when this is happening, you can't hesitate, because you can see it's actually relatively... Once you're on the wheel, you're pretty okay, but if you let that gap open up, it's a massive amount of work to close it. So every time somebody goes, and that's what Great Britain are doing a great job of at the moment, they do not hesitate in one instant when a Netherlands-Dutch rider goes.
So Ashley Moolman up there as well from South Africa, in about 4th place there in the line at the front of the main field.
Well, Marianne Vos is not easing off the pedals yet. She's done a very, very big turn on the front. And continuing, you see another Dutch rider there. It could be Ellen van Dijk. Just went back for some bottles in that moment of aggression from the Netherlands at the front. But, like Dave said, the riders are getting tired now. It only takes 1 or 2 riders in the middle of the peloton. Australian, looks like it could be
Tiffany Cromwell.
She's had a mechanical. This is not good for the Australians, because she was such an important part of the team, especially towards the end of the bike race. And this will be really affecting the Australians if Tiffany Cromwell can't get back into that peloton.
Here we are back at the front of the race, but yeah, bad timing there for Cromwell as she waits for mechanical assistance. I think it was Hannah Barnes responding there, about 6th or 7th in line. But as you can see, it's just starting to splinter and split now, this race. The pressure is starting to tell. We're inside the final 50 kilometres now. The Dutch tactic is continuing to make life difficult for everybody else.
It is starting to pay dividends for them, because as we can see, the splits are happening, the back of the race is breaking to pieces, and it's getting those gaps are opening up slightly more easily now at the front and getting more difficult to close down. And this is where we know the race is getting to breaking point.
Slight easing in relative terms at the front.
I'm sure the Dutch just wish there was another team that wanted to do the same as them.
This is the Tiffany Cromwell incident.
Yeah, I think maybe a chain slipped or something.
And she had a little crash there, so it'd be interesting to see if she can get back in. But like we said, she's an important domestique for one of the fastest sprinters in this peloton, Chloe Hosking. But the Dutch, they haven't stopped. Here they go again. They're really, really putting the hammer down. This is the winner of the Olympic Games, Anna van der Breggen. So there's a very, very committed effort from all of the riders from the Netherlands to split this up and make it a hard race.
There's a little bit of looking around there for a second or two before there was a response. Meanwhile, at the back there, I can see Laura Massey from Great Britain. And riders being dropped left, right and centre now out of the back of this main field.
And this is, as we said, you get to a point in the race where everyone starts to weaken. And the Heat will have done that, the constant attacking from the Netherlands. But now it's a case where we'll lose almost half the peloton in a very short period of time.
That's Sabalinskaya, 84 as well. She's finding it tough now.
Well, she's already ridden the time trial and didn't quite achieve what she wanted to here in Doha in the individual time trial, but medalist at the Olympic Games in London and Rio in the individual time trial. So she's a strong rider that can close those gaps, but she's not in a great position now, and perhaps that time trial earlier in the week has taken it out of her. But Anna van der Breggen, your Olympic gold medalist, on the front here, and there's some hesitation behind.
It's Kroger who keeps looking around.
And you can see it splitting behind, and it's getting to little groups now. And this is Eritrean rider down, but it looks fit.
Got a nasty moment there for the rider from Eritrea.
Well, what does Anna van der Breggen do here? Does she sit up and wait for some help, or does she just keep driving on by herself?
I think she has to keep driving on and force them to come up, because that's the tactics, and then that's when the counter-attack will work. So you're going to have to force everyone else to work hard to bring her back, and then Marion Vos or one of the other Dutch riders to counter again.
Well, you can see how hard everyone's having to work to close this move of Anna van der Breggen, and it's really splitting up. Lizzie Deignan still there on the wheel.
You can see how everyone's weakening all of a sudden. Lizzie Deignan a bit further back than we've seen her, but she seems to be pretty much in control still, but there are gaps opening up everywhere now.
And we saw a few of the sprinters there, Kirsten Wield, Jolien Daughter, just sitting very, very comfortably in that mass part of the bunch and not even responding to these moves out in front. But Emmy Johansson still there at the front, and Eileen Rowe for Team GB doing a great job.
And there's the other counter from the Dutch, so I mean, it's perfect tactics. I bet they just...
Van Vleuten's having a go again. She's just gone from near where the barriers. There she is. Sure, that's Van Vleuten.
Hannah Barnes reacting quickly in fourth position.
3 laps to go as they cross the line.
There you go, this rider's blowing up now. The German rider actually is sort of, you can see, nuking. Hannah Barnes had to come around her. So this really is at the sharp end. They're starting to blow up. And as they're coming by, you can see the gaps opening up.
Lizzie Deignan, you can see up towards the front. One of the first riders to go over the line. Danny King's gone through as well. Hannah Barnes is right up there. She is in 3rd place behind Van Vleuten.
She looks quite comfortable too, and she has been super impressive at these World Championships. She was 2nd in the team time trial with her professional team, Canyon SRAM, and 14th in the individual time trial. Doesn't sound so special, but for a rider who's a sprinter, it was a very, very special ride and proves that she's on top form. You can see she's covering these moves and she looks quite comfortable.
Yeah, and we mentioned that she was 6th in that World Cup race that Emilia Farlin won in Sweden.
Danny King of GB in there as well, also doing a very good job. Lizzie Deignan will come to the finish quite confident that her team has done a great job. You can see
there's Lizzie.
She's very well positioned as well.
With the orange on her helmet there at the front.
Danny King as well, omnipresent at the front of the bunch there, just taking a bottle.
She's good at being very assertive in that feed area, isn't she, Lizzie Deignan? I mean, I know you'd expect there was someone of her experience, but she's very, very assertive.
Yeah, you have to, and that's also shows how good she's feeling, because it's not easy to be consistently right to the front of the sharp end going through the feed zone. It takes a big effort to be there, but she times it every time perfectly. And now we're entering the final hour of the race, and this is where a lot of the hitters who are trying to get the medals, they'll think, right, in the final hour, it's getting serious.
And there's another crash in the feed zone.
Like you said, Dave, I think that magic 1 hour to go is a key moment in the race where sprinters that have hung on, that have really put themselves into position, they say, okay, I've got this far into the race, it's just 1 hour to go, and they get a whole new level of fitness and level of freshness. And in a race like this, it's been quite aggressive in the last hour, so they have to fight, the sprinters have to fight really hard and just hope to gamble a little bit that it keeps coming back together. But when there's 1 hour to go in the race, they consciously decide, okay, now I have to take things into my own hands. Now I need to be more active. Now, it's only an hour to go, I can do this.
You also become aware when you hit that magic hour to go that if a break goes, it can make it to the finish. It becomes kind of within the realms of possibility. Beyond that, over an hour that this gives enough time to bring something back. People will, there's another crash at the front there in the roundabout. So and that's the fatigue setting in as well.
That's Olga Zabelinskaya, who's had to stop for the second time in the race. But as you can see, is up and running once more.
One rider we haven't mentioned much of today is Didriksen of Denmark. She's an outside chance in a sprint. She had a fantastic sprint in the recent Bowls Tour. And for Denmark, she's an outside chance.
Well, she's a two-time world junior road race champion, isn't she, Didriksen? And shows every sign of being one of the big stars over the next few years in women's cycling.
Absolutely. She was concentrating on the track for the Olympic Games in Rio. She finished 5th in the Omnium, but her display in the last events of the Omnium were just phenomenal. Really exciting rider to watch, and huge future ahead of her. She's been riding for her professional team this year in the domestique role, but pulled off a nice win just a few weeks ago, and she's a really fast sprinter, and she'll have that track speed from being on the track most of this season, so she'll be one to watch coming into the finish.
Action on the front from something other than an orange jersey. The USA sending a rider up the road here. Amber Neben once again. Amber Neben had to go a little earlier on. Then she's been, restoring her energy reserves at the back of the peloton, and now she's come back again. And
this is what I mean. What I meant before as well about the hour to go. If you a time trial specialist with that far to go, you'd think that's possible they could do that if they're feeling good and they're fresh. You wouldn't want to, as somebody who's just won the World Championships a few days ago, to get a gap and start going. So this is what I meant before about the Dutch perhaps getting caught out and counter-attacked. Amber Neben can sit back there, let the Dutch soften everyone up, do all the hard work, wait for that lull and go. And she knows that now the Netherlands and Team GB are just watching each other. So it's quite a clever move by Amber Neben, because perhaps she can't go with all those jumps, but she lets them soften up. Then she goes into the lull and gets the gap, and now she goes into TT mode.
Well, it's interesting that the peloton didn't respond to that move. Whether they couldn't or didn't, that's the question. But Amber Neben, having won that World Championship time trial, she's proven that she's in fantastic form. So it's not a rider you'd want to let slip off the front. And once she gets into her rhythm, it's going to take a little bit of an effort for some of the nations to combine together to bring this back, because she's not going to stop, and she's in the form of her life.
Yeah, it's going to be a big ask for anybody to bridge up to that, and so no one's going to be able to do it individually. So at some points they're going to have to, a little sprinter group's going to go, and no team's really going to want. But there you see the Netherlands sitting there, so they've been caught out, and now they might find themselves riding on the front, chasing down somebody who's profiting off their work.
We talk about her as a time trialist, quite rightly so, as a two-time world champion in that discipline, but she finished 4th in the World Road Race Championship before, back in 2012, and here she is on the front once again now. And Amber Neben will be happy with this scenario. Throwback to Tuesday afternoon, when she won the world title for the second time at the age of 41.
It's trying to psychologically, now she's got that gap, she knows that she's the fastest in the world on that circuit. It's a fact. She did it a few days ago, and psychologically that's a massive boost. You think, okay, and now she slips into a different mindset, and you can see teams are panicking slightly. Belgium started to put a rider on the front, and they're aware that there's one rider you don't want to up there off the road on their own. It's Amber Neben.
Well, it's interesting to see the Belgium team on the front because they do have one of the fastest sprinters in the peloton, Jolien Dorder, but they're not one of the strongest teams, and it's interesting to see that they've taken up the responsibility and not just passed it over to the stronger teams like the Netherlands and GB.
And that's a bit of a silly tactic in my opinion. You've seen how much the Netherlands want this race, same as Team GB. Don't help them now. Let them do what they clearly want to do, which is control this race and own it essentially. So, and that's playing into the hands now of the Dutch and Team GB. You kind of, and that's what they've done. You sort of call their bluff slightly. Although the Dutch, I think that's Marianne Vos is sitting in second place, and look at Amber Neben just fly.
Well, that's one of the beauties, Dave, of women's cycling, is it's so unpredictable and doesn't make much sense for that one rider from Belgium to be doing so much work at the moment when the Netherlands...
It's not going to make any difference, is it? And it's not as if there are enough Belgians there to do it anyway. And as David was saying, the Dutch have made it obvious that they're absolutely desperate to win this race. So why not just sit up and let them get on with it?
You call their bluff. It's like you'd actually go and say to them, look, you guys want this, you chase it down. We're not going to chase it down.
I should think that'll be what... Lizzie Deignan will be saying to her teammates, why don't you just sit there and wait?
It's their responsibility now, let them do it. And again, they might then, and this is what I said before about another team can profit off them calling each other's bluff. The amount of time it takes them to decide what to do, you can get that gap, which is what Amber Neben's doing.
Zabelinskaya, number 84, back in the main field.
Well, she was distance off the back, so she's done well to get herself back in there. But the race is in the hands of the Americans at the moment. They had a disappointing Rio Olympic Games, but they're in a very strong position now with Amber Neben, the current world champion.
I think it is Dutch, yeah, Dutch are now on the front. So yeah, there you go. You kind of Team GB are playing it very cool now, as we've spoken at the start of the race about how Lizzie Deignan is a very cool customer when it comes to tactics, and she's not the sort of rider that's going to get called out in a situation like this. She'll be saying to all the other riders, relax, I know what the Dutch are going to do, let them do as much work as possible. We'll contribute if we have to at the very last moment.
You could see Lizzie there just on the edge of the road, as it were, up towards the front, just keeping an eye on what's going on. There's the leader, and well, not surprisingly, for considering it's the World Time Trial Champion, she's already gained an advantage of nearly 40 seconds on the main field. The main field, who are hot, sweaty, and in some cases I think a little confused as to quite how they want to react at this moment in time.
And because of a circuit like this, it's very hard to get away on your own. But once in this final hour you get away, and Marianne Vos understands what's happening now. They haven't got a teammate that's going to be able to match Amber Neben, so there's no point in using up their troops to try and bring it down. She has to ride aggressively and cause a split, a chasing group, and Lizzie Deignan understands that as well. She's in third place, again letting the Belgian rider close the gap, so she's riding a very clever race.
Well, Lizzie staying as close to the front as she can while doing as little work in the process of doing so.
I don't think we've seen Lizzie Deignan once actually in the wind. You know, we've seen Marianne Vos, we've seen all the other riders attacking, and not once have we actually seen Lizzie Deignan go off the front.
Oh, she's very relaxed, and that's one of her strengths, obviously, is reading a race and staying cool and calm. And as we said before, the Belgian riders, for example, maybe a little bit less experienced, just in a bit of panic because there's a rider broken away and they have one of the fastest sprinters in the peloton, so they're trying desperately to close down time. Not very productively, given that they're not the strongest team, but that's the difference between having a team captain like Lizzie Deignan for the GB team, just keeping everybody cool. And
Zabelinskaya has had so many problems on the course today.
I'm wondering whether she's getting told off. I wonder whether she got dragged on.
Maybe she's being told off for getting a toe back to the peloton.
Because she did come back very quickly before.
Yeah, it could be the case that she got a toe back and she's being asked to leave the race.
Yeah, okay, I'm hearing the race radio that basically the president of the jury wants to speak to the Russian team car, so I think she might be getting pulled out of the race, or the director might be. So the commissaire wants to speak to the director sport. You can see the way she's not got a mechanical problem. I think that maybe she got a toe back on after that incident, because she did, as you noticed, Simon, she got back on very quickly, and I think the commissaire is now going to probably disqualify them.
So it sounds like a bit of trouble for Olga Zabelinskaya, who's no stranger to controversy, let it be said, having not that long ago come back from a doping ban herself. Here's Amber Neben, though, who leads at the moment. 38 seconds is the gap. That gap hasn't changed, has it, despite that big turn on the front from Marianne Vos for a little while. And there's Lizzie Deignan, the defending world champion, in second place here.
I'm surprised if she just pulls off and takes herself a little bit further back, Lizzie, so she can't get caught out by moves. She's sitting probably a little bit too far at the front for...
Well, Lizzie Deignan certainly demonstrating that she's one of the strongest riders in this race, as has Marianne Vos. We've seen all the big names that we'd normally see being at the front of the race on hillier circuits, really dominating this flat World Championship.
No one's helping the Belgian at the front, though, are they, here? This is a long, long ride at the front. There's Lauren Rowney coming up towards the front of the peloton in the white with the green helmet from Australia. Good, strong team rider for the Aussies.
You know, the Aussies have understood the threat as well, so they're going up. So playing slightly into the hands of the Dutch again, that these other teams are panicking.
It's so fantastic to see Amber Neben after she already has that gold medal in the bag from earlier in the week, and well suited to a much hillier circuit than this, just out there, you know, giving her nation a chance to win this race, and herself. Imagine if she had the double here in Qatar at 41 years of age.
A great year at the World Championships for the United States.
Just misses a bottle there. That won't be good for a mental state. It's very difficult out there, you know, just to keep motivated and believing in yourself, and to miss that bottle will play.
Would she only have one chance then in that feed zone? Or would there be more than one opportunity?
There could have been two people, but it looked like she had left it to the last person that was lined out there, so she didn't take a bottle in that time through the zone, the feed zone. Well, Lizzie Deignan's really put herself in a position to win this race up until this point. She's getting closer and closer to the finish with a few teammates left in there, and while she's played down her chances all week, she's looking very comfortable and in a really good position to take this on. It looks like it could come down to a bunch sprint, and she doesn't really recognise herself as a big bunch sprinter, but she's certainly got the fitness level to come to the finish with fresher legs than some of the pure sprinters.
Well, it's certainly turning into a very resolute and stout defence of the rainbow jersey from Lizzie Deignan, and she still is in with a chance of retaining that world crown. With 35.5 kilometres to go here on the Pearl in Qatar. This is Lauren Rowney on the front for Australia. 45 seconds, the gap's going up actually from Amber Neben back to the peloton here. There'll be some worried riders there.
Well, there is at the moment. It's essentially just that. I mean, the Australian riders helped a little bit, but the Belgian riders, it's tete-a-tete against the two of them, so there's no way she can bring time back on Amber Neben. We know the quality of Amber Neben. You need to have two or three riders to stand a chance, two or three strong riders to stand a chance.
She did look as though she was banging her head against a brick wall, didn't she?
Which might be the very reason she's riding as well. She might have said to her teammates, look, I'm dead, I'm not going to be able to contribute, I'll just go and work now and get my contribution to the race done. But again, it's almost a false economy because no one else is going to help, and she's not strong enough to actually bring the gap back.
Well, Amber Neben looks as comfortable as anyone could reasonably expect, given the weather conditions and the state of the race.
You see the radio in her ear there, so she'll be getting some information from her director in the race car, some motivation, and she has teammates back in the peloton that could potentially win if she gets caught. Megan Gagne, the World Tour winner of this year, she had a phenomenal season. Olympics aside, which was a bit disappointing, but Megan Gagne, she was third at the World Championships last year.
Yeah, what's she like in a sprint generally, Megan Gagne?
Well, she's quite fast, but I mean, I wouldn't back her against the likes of, say, Lizzie Armistead or Yulin Dorda or Chloe Hosking, Kirsten Wield, but she is one of the faster, you know, diesel-type climber riders. She won the Giro d'Italia, so you can't say she's a pure sprinter, but she's got a bit of a kick on her.
Lizzie Armistead in the middle of your picture there. Good to see Danny King still up towards the front as well. She, as you were saying, Rochelle has been very keen to get back into the British team on the road, and has certainly contributed very well here in this road race today.
She certainly would have been very nervous lining up today, back in the GB kit in those colours, representing her nation, and she's just wanted so bad to make that big step from the track to the road, and representing GB is something that's the most important thing to her, and she's achieved that here, so she would have felt the pressure, but she's been executing her role for the GB team and for Lizzie Deignan very well out there today.
Amber Neben's just eked out another couple of seconds advantage over the chasing pack. next time over the line. Only 2 laps of the Pearl still to go. Well, that's the thing about this course. You can see where people are every so often, which...
And that's good for Amber Neben, because you can see there's just the one Belgian rider on the front. None of the big teams are contributing. So that will give her a bit more confidence that at the moment she's still in control.
You can see now the orange colours of the Netherlands slowly moving to the front, but they will make a calculated assault on bringing this back.
Well, if they leave the Belgian rider on the front for too long, though, they'll be going backwards, won't they, before they start to make the counter?
Yeah, they don't really want it to go over a minute, which is rapidly approaching.
Bastianelli at down number 24 there, towards the back of the peloton for Italy.
Well,
I wonder if it comes down to a sprint at the end, whether she might be thereabouts at the front of the race. She'll need to get a little bit further forward than she is at the moment. 52 seconds, it's going up all the time, the advantage of Amber Neben of the United States. Shadows growing a little longer here in the late afternoon. We're a couple of hours ahead of the UK, but don't imagine that it's particularly much cooler. It's still in the mid-30s, the temperature here for the cyclists.
Well, she's got that radio in her ear as well, so she's got the motivation of her team director, giving her the time checks, but also giving her the motivation and confidence to just keep pushing on. Even if she gets caught, she's got a couple of teammates that can counter-attack that we haven't seen much of in the peloton. Notably the World Tour winner of this year, Megan Gagne. She definitely has the ability and legs and form to attack when this comes back together, but it's a very tactical race at the moment, Dave.
Very tactical. We're yet to see Team GB attack, so in theory they appear to be the strongest team at the moment, in my opinion, because they've responded to everything yet not actually forced any action. We have Hannah Barnes there in 3rd place, just sitting there, and they're moving slightly up again, Team G. So Danny King's a bit further back, with Lizzie Deignan not far behind, and I think we have Alice Barnes coming up. So I think they've almost got a full team there still.
Yeah, I could see Eileen Rowe there as well.
And I caught a glimpse before as well of Annesley Park, who's doing her first World Championships, a young rider, and she's doing a great job still in there. So it's an impressive display so far.
Well, I've been certainly very impressed by the form of Hannah Barnes here at the World Championships and throughout this season, coming back from injury, but she's obviously got a very good team captain in Lizzie Deignan to learn from, and she looks very calm and relaxed in the peloton. She's covered a few moves today, and the big question is, if this comes down to a sprint, would GB ride for Lizzie Deignan? Will they ride for Hannah Barnes? Possibly even Alice Barnes. So they have some really, 3 really fast riders in there.
Great Britain certainly with options as they go into the closing stages of this race. We're inside the final 2 laps here on the Pearl in Doha in the Women's Elite World Championship road race, and still a lot of riders in contention for that rainbow jersey of world champion, including the defending champion Lizzie Deignan, as she is now, formerly Lizzie Armitstead, who won in Richmond in September of last year. And coming back for a drink there, Lauren Stevens of the United States of America. Lauren Stevens, a stage winner in the Tour de San Luis in Argentina in the last couple of years. 10th overall in the Tour of California.
I was listening to an interview of Lizzie Deignan earlier today, and she said that while she's playing down her chances of a World Championship back-to-back here in Qatar, that she was a little bit disappointed with her salute last year when she won the World Championships in Richmond, and she'd love to have a second chance at getting both arms up in the air, crossing the line. So to say something like that, it has to be in the back of her mind that she's capable of winning this World Championship.
Good sprint to the line last year from Lizzie. It was sort of quite uphill inside the last kilometre, and then that slightly uphill sprint towards the line as well, where she beat Anna van der Breggen to the line, and Megan Gagne, who finished with the bronze medal for the United States. So Amber Neben holding steady at 42 seconds. Great Britain prominent alongside Australia, but both teams, both nations, happy to let the Dutch go to the front. Oh, Emma Johansson for Sweden with one of her teammates.
You saw the Aussies and the GB team there having a chat about when are they going to really put the hammer down and try to bring this back, and they can't leave it out there for too much longer. 44 seconds, 25.9 kilometres to go. But Amber Neben, she's a strong rider, current world champion in the ITT, but a little bit of a dropping of the head there is not a good indication. Here's Lauren Rowney, the rider from Australia that's done the majority of the work for the Australians today. Looks like she's tiring off the back now.
She looks pretty cooked, doesn't she, Lauren Rowney now? She's blown her gasket, I think, and
well,
I think her job is done for the day.
And she's actually a sprinter in her own right, so to have worked as a domestique today and to be chasing back moves, it would have been a difficult task for Lauren Rowney. But she's done her job and finished for the day, and no doubt Chloe Hosking, the Australian sprinter, is in there feeling very confident with 25.4 kilometres to go.
35 seconds, 34 seconds isn't actually that much when you consider there hasn't been a full chase behind. I mean, if it was to attack once, if this launched again, that would come back incredibly quickly.
I think, like you said, Dave, when the Dutch put a rider on the front and it closes down a little bit, they realise that they've got this in control.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit more relaxed, so they just leave Amber Neben out there a little bit longer. And we can expect a really aggressive last part of this race from the Dutch.
They'll certainly feel that she's very much within range now, won't they?
Yeah, and because of the make of this circuit, they'll keep getting glances of her, and that's you know, none of the big riders in the peloton, they've all had a pretty decent rest this last lap. Now, since Amber Neben went, they've all been sitting back, they've been fueling in the wheels, having their domestiques do the work on the front.
Olga Zabelinskaya, a medalist at the London and Rio Olympics in the individual time trial, was disqualified today. It's interesting that she's not off the course yet, because they did announce that they disqualified her for an illegal bike change, but still just rolling around on the course.
Presumably preparing to roll off the course as she goes through the finish at the first available opportunity. So there we are. Come in, number 84, your number's up. Your time is up. And she's ordered from the course by the UCI.
She's had a bad day. Bad day at the office, that's for sure.
Unlike Amber Neben here, who still leads by over half a minute.
Oh, you can see she's digging really deep now, so she's getting that time check on the board, 40 seconds. We get 34 seconds on our screen. In any case, we believe that the peloton have got this under control, and that they will be able to bring it back when they decide it's time to pull Amber Neben back in. You can see now it's the Australians on the front, stringing out the peloton. This is an indication that their sprinter is feeling good in the peloton.
Fairly reduced peloton now, and that's been the attrition from all those attacks, because we've not really had much go off the front of the race apart from Amber Neben, but we've had loads go out the back through the attrition of just getting worn down. Dutch back on again, so yeah, they're not going to risk it, that's for sure. They're going to just get it back under control again, and then we'll see whether they're going to ride it to the line now or they're going to launch the attacks, because I actually can't predict which one they're going to do, whether they've just they did all those attacks for her.
This is Carmen Small with a problem at the back for the United States.
Yeah, it's hard to tell whether all those attacks were just to soften and fatigue everybody to make it a harder sprint, harder finale, or whether they genuinely do want it to splinter up into a smaller group with Dutch riders in it.
She hasn't had a very happy World Championship, has she, Carmen Small? Felt as the national champion against the watch for the United States, she should have got one of the slots for the Olympic Games in Rio. They went with Christian Armstrong based on Armstrong's previous Olympic record, where she'd won it in 08 and 12. They were proved right in the decision they made, because she won the gold medal, but Carmen Small went to arbitration over it, tried to get that spot in Rio. She's here and was hoping to prove her point in the time trial. Maybe just trying a bit too hard, maybe her form wasn't right, who knows, but she ended up a disappointing for her 12th place the other day. And she's got a bit of chasing to do here now as well after that mechanical issue.
I was thinking about it last night, how difficult emotionally the season has been for Carmen Small, because she had a transfer from one team to another in the middle of the season. Things weren't working out with her team, and she changed to another team, and at the same time she was putting in an appeal process for the selection for the Olympic Games. She had won the national time trial championship and beating Kristen Armstrong, who won the Olympic Games, so that would be something very difficult emotionally to deal with. Okay, the USA made the right decision because they selected a rider that won the Olympic Games, but then you have Carmen Small, who beat that rider at the national championships.
Yeah.
So it's been a very difficult season for Carmen Small, and as we've just seen with the mechanical here, not a good situation for the USA, because they have Amber Neben out in front and they need that firepower back in the peloton to respond should she be caught very soon.
Still half a minute, and not so much coming from the Dutch at the moment. Are they just regrouping?
I think so. I think the next time it goes, it's going to be all-out warfare, really. I mean, because they can take it to the line, so it will be... They'll have to strategize it quite well by discussing amongst themselves who's feeling good, and then the other riders working for that ride, or those two riders. So I presume it would be Kirsten Wild and Marianne Vos. And so those two riders would just sit back while the rest of the team would launch a flurry of attacks, weaken everybody, and then counter.
Well, it's been so much spoken about the strength of this team from the Netherlands, the strongest that we've ever seen in the history of women's cycling, and any one of those riders would be capable of winning, but they have the favourite sprinter, Kirsten Wild, in the peloton. Will they back her for a sprint, or will they try to break this up in the final kilometres? And there's Jolien Daughter of Belgium, who's one of the fastest sprinters in this peloton. We've mentioned Chloe Hosking, then you have Bastianelli for the Italians. There's a few outside chances. Lotta Lepisto from Finland. Amber Neben just taking on her last bottle with 21 kilometres to go. And it was impressive to see her win the individual time trial earlier this week, because, like we said, she's won it in the past, but she hasn't been so present in the women's peloton in the last couple of years. She's been around, but just not being at the top of those races that she was in the past. So
did it look like her career was winding down?
We would have said she was an outside chance for a medal here at the World Championships, but she surprised everybody at the age of 41 to come back and win the world title this week in the individual time trial, and she's proving now that she's in the form of her life off the front of the
This is Carmen Small trying to get back onto the rear end of the main field following that mechanical issue.
Well, will the Americans have a train leading out Riviera for the sprint? It's one of the nations that have a fast rider, but maybe not a favourite for the sprint. And that's why this World Championships is just so unpredictable. We know that the Netherlands is the strongest team. We know Kirsten Wild's very fast, but there's so many riders here that could potentially be on the podium or sneak this victory. And the Australians working very hard, putting faith into their sprinter, Chloe Hosking.
20 seconds now, so within sight, so it's completely in control. So it would almost be sensible now for Australians to just wind it back a bit, which is, I think, what they're doing, hence why the bunch is all spreading across the road, because they're slowing down because they know no Amber Neben's in sight. There's no risk now. They've got the race back under control. So now it's a question of, is it going to be an aggressive race, or are all the teams going to resign themselves to the fact it's going to sprint and look after their sprinters? Now, for sure, there are a couple of teams in here that don't have a sprinter who could win, so it would be up to them to now attack.
The three Germans up towards the front, Lisa Brennauer among them. Ashley Moolman up there as well for South Africa. Kasia Niewiadoma from Poland. Jolien Daughter's teammates up there too. They're all starting to congregate across the road. Just 20 seconds now. Amber Neben less than 19 kilometres away from the finish, but she's almost within sight now for the main pack.
Well, there hasn't been a very committed chase from anyone in the main peloton, but it's naturally just coming back, so they will feel confident that Amber Neben will be reeled in as these lead-out trains and domestiques just move to the front, trying to get their sprinters into position. The gap's coming down. And you can see that she's in sight there, but she's a rider that will keep the pressure on the pedals for as long as possible to put her teammates in a good position. And will we see some counter-attacks from the Americans?
Do you get the impression now the Dutch have decided that they're going to throw the eggs in Kirsten Wild's basket?
At this moment in time, it looks that way. I mean, it seems to be a bit of a stalemate in the peloton. I think, yeah, like I said, I think it would appear most of the teams are now settling for a bunch sprint. And if that's not the case, then they're going to have to launch attacks now, otherwise it will be a bunch sprint. The only way it can break up enough now to form that split is if it starts attacking in the next couple of kilometres. There it goes, and it's attack behind. Dutch attacked.
Roxanne Knetemann there from the Netherlands on the front, having a little look round. Canada with Leah Kirkman as a possibility for them. A couple of her teammates in the blue of Canada. Danny King still up there towards the right of your picture.
Well, getting to the business end of the bike race, it's going to be very interesting to see what GB does, if they're going to do a lead out for Lizzie Deignan, or if they're going to back one of their younger, less experienced riders like Hannah Barnes or Alice Barnes for the sprint. Amber Neben there just looks over the road to see how close the peloton's coming, taking a drink.
She knows what's coming, and it's not going to be another gold medal. Not today, anyway.
I think within Team GB, they're going to have to make, they'll have to discuss that on the road now. So they'll be discussing between themselves, okay, who's feeling good, who's going for this. And I don't think there'll be a natural pre-race order of authority, if you like. I think they'll have said, look, you have to discuss between yourselves and be honest with each other. And Lizzie can easily call it. I mean, if Lizzie says, I feel good, then everyone's got to go for it. But and that's even if Hannah's feeling good as well. If they both say I'm feeling good, it's going to have to be Lizzie they go for. She is the reigning world champion.
Well, Sarah Roy from Australia is taking on a lot of the work here at the front of the peloton. Ellen van Dijk from the Netherlands just on second wheel there. She's a rider that we may have predicted will make a late attack, but are they riding for Kirsten Wild for a sprint, or are they going to try and light this up with a flurry of attacks?
There's been a little crash just coming up that roundabout there.
Just a rider on the other side of the road, Huang Ting Ying from Chinese Taipei.
Well, she will be devastated about that if she doesn't get back to the peloton, because she's quite a handy sprinter as well. One that you'd put on the outside chance of a medal here at the World Championship. She had a couple of victories in Chongming Island at the World Tour race. And
Asian Road Race champion as well last year.
She's not looking too sprightly though.
No. And it was on the other side of the road, on the outside. And a crash just missed by one of the British riders as well there.
So it really is a stalemate in the peloton right now. No one's, they're kind of just all watching each other and trying to see who's going to do it. Now I think everyone's all been a bit battle worn by the Dutch, and probably quite surprised that now they're just sitting there not doing anything, which would indicate that they're now putting all their eggs in the Kirsten Wild basket.
We're just trying to see if we can spot Wild. She's one of the taller riders in the peloton, so you can normally see her helmet popping up across the top of the peloton. But Amber Neben knows her job out there, and that's to keep going until she's caught. And she knows she will be, so it's quite an art to put yourself through that pain. Obviously, she's won the World Time Trial Championship 2 times. She knows how to hurt, and whilst her face looks pretty relaxed there, she would be in a world of pain.
Yeah, this is a great ride from Amber Neben, but just 24 seconds separate her from this peloton here. But that looks very much like a peloton preparing itself for a big gallop.
It does, only 16.8 k's to go, so that's not far at all. And it's highly controllable now. As Rochelle was saying earlier, everyone can dig deeper when they're this closer. They've had a fairly calm last 15 kilometres, 20 kilometres. All kind of hoping, I guess, that it was going to stay this way. They've been able to fuel, get ready, and now it's going to be a case of getting your team to work, look after you to the line.
Well, you can see one of the sprint favourites, Jolien Daughter, up there in 4th position. And that's an indication of feeling good, but also being a little bit nervous, because you don't see the more experienced sprinters like Deignan or Wild moving to the front this early with 16.3 kilometres to go. But Chloe Hosking, also from Australia. Now we're talking about the really fast sprinters in this race, and what a devastating thing for Giorgia Bronzini not to be on the start line today, because this race would have really played into her hands. And
so if it's coming up for a sprint, we're looking at Hosking, Dora, Kirsten Wild.
yeah, I think the clear favourite will most likely be Wild, because she's the Queen of Qatar. This is her style of race. She has a very strong team in the Dutch. Lizzie Deignan, you wouldn't put your money on in a big bunch sprint, but she looks very comfortable out there, and you know, she's got that World Championship jersey to retain, so anything is possible. The GB team have ridden very well, and that will give her more confidence coming into the finish that I'd like to try and finish this off. Even if I'm not a pure sprinter and I'm here with all the big sprinters, I'm going to give this a go, and she's definitely got a chance. But the likes of Kirsten Wild, Jolien Dora, Chloe Hosking.
About someone like Van der Breggen, can she get involved in that, or not so much if it's a pure sprint?
Well, if they've decided that they're going to ride for Wild for the sprint now, she'll be a very big part of the lead out or a late attack. So, yes, in her own right, she could be a winner of a big bunch sprint. But that's the beauty of the team from the Netherlands. They have so many riders that could potentially win in any circumstances. We haven't even mentioned Marianne Vos.
No. Or any of the German riders. Germany, they look quite strong,
Trixie
don't they?
Warwick. It's a very open race here. You can see now that they've got Amber Neben very close in sight with 1 lap to go, and it's all set for a big bunch sprint.
Here we go then. 1 lap remains in the women's road race here at the World Championships. It's a very small gap from Amber Neben of the United States back to the peloton. It's a gap that's about to close very, very quickly indeed. And the smart money now is on a sprint for the line. Lizzie Deignan of Great Britain still in with a chance of defending her world title. But with every passing kilometre, the sprinters get more and more excited that it could be their day. That's riders like Chloe Hosking from the United States, Jolien Dora from Belgium, Kirsten Wild of the Netherlands, to name but a few. And Amber Neben's time at the front of the race is now up, and those orange jerseys of the Dutch start to congregate at the front. It looks like it's Roxanne Knetemann on the right-hand side. There it is. Is that Ashley Mulman from South Africa? But she's just moving across to make sure that she can take a bottle.
And Jolien Dora there taking a bottle from Belgium. Very close to the finish for riders to be taking bottles. You can see down the back the chaos again.
Well, brakes were slammed on there in that shot. Just wondered whether there had been an incident, but apparently not, which is good. Trixie Warwick there for Germany with Lisa Brennauer on a wheel. Lizzie Deignan in the middle. And now there's an attack here.
Well, the GB team have had a fine race until this point, and this is a strong ride, a strong attack by Dani King. She's been policing every single move during this race, riding right at the front. You can see that she just pushed her radio into her ear to get some indication from the riders or the team director how this attack is going, and it is a strong attack.
Well, that all changed very quickly, both on the front of the race and for Amber Neben. A couple of minutes ago, she was leading the World Championship, and now she's been spat out the back of the peloton unceremoniously. But Dani King of Great Britain is on the front and stretching the field out here in the closing kilometres with less than 15 to go.
Well, this is a great tactic by Team GB. We haven't seen them move the whole race, not even once. They've covered everything. They've protected the race, if you like, in a defensive manner. And this has obviously been their plan. She's a strong move. Look at that. It's splitting it immediately. So she's really forcing it. The Dutch rider's making it across. And this puts Lizzie Armstead in a perfect position because she can just sit and follow everything. But she's realising the danger. And I think Lizzie Deignan is coming across herself. Yeah,
so Dani King then on the front for Great Britain. And it's causing a bit of panic behind.
Yeah, that's a really strong attack, and you can see how tired everybody is. That one massive attack, and it's caused so much damage. Lizzie Deignan's trying to come across on her own, trying to make it to the Swedish rider, I think, that's in between.
Oh, that looks like it might be Emma Johansson for Sweden. It usually is Emma Johansson. On this, the last lap of 7 of the Pearl here in Doha, in Qatar.
Well, this is obviously what Team GB needed to do, because we know you were just listing the sprinters before, Simon, and Lizzie Deignan doesn't really come in against those pure sprinters, but she can if they do make the race really hard. They fatigue everybody out, put everybody under stress, and then that way they can really force it and give Lizzie a chance in the sprint.
Oh, this is a super strong move by Dani King and the Team GB. Very, very smart. Put everybody under pressure. an amazing form that Danny King has come into this World Championship.
And draw some of the sting from the legs of the other riders as well. Just maybe take a little bit of the top end off some of the other riders in these closing kilometres.
And that's the plan. You can see how tired everybody is now. They've been had essentially a lap pretty steady, just following, letting the domestiques ride chase behind Anne Van Even. But the moment one big attack came from Danny King, it started to rip it all to pieces. So if they start countering again, I think we can expect it to split up again into small groups.
Well, Danny King's doing a fantastic job here.
Well, interestingly, she was marked by riders that ride on the same professional team as her, Wiggle High Five, Amy Peters, Elisa Longo Borghini and Emma Johansson. These are the riders that actually know the real strength of Danny King and knew that they had to respond to that move.
Good ride here by Kidan of Eritrea as well, hanging in with the peloton at the business end of the race here. And now Great Britain continue to animate once more.
Well, it's Hannah Barnes, so that means that the rider that they're working for is going to be Lizzie Deignan, because Hannah Barnes is using her energy now to soften up the peloton. Lizzie must be feeling very good.
This is a full role reversal to earlier in the race, where it was the Dutch that kept attacking and Team GB marking them. Now it's Team GB attacking and the Dutch marking them. So the tactics are now clear. Netherlands are riding for Kirsten Wills for a sprint, and Team GB are trying to rip it to pieces to set it up for Lizzie Deignan. So that's two completely different tactics now. One wants a full bunch sprint, the other wants a small group.
Mika Kroger in the middle of the picture from Germany, the one who helped to close the gap. Is this Emma Johansson going now on the
heavily marked
right-hand
by
side? Yeah.
Lizzie Deignan.
Lizzie Deignan straight onto her wheel. She recognised the danger, and Marianne Vos tries to go and chase after and close the gap down to Lizzie Armitstead. Ashley Mullman's up there for South Africa. Lisa Branauer as well. Then Mika Kroger. Then one of the American riders. And a little bit of a gap opening here. But Emma Johansson's acceleration again puts real pressure on those in the race. And Lizzie Deignan was very, very quick to jump on that and stamp it out.
Oh, they're three of the best bike riders in the world, and it was Lizzie Deignan and the rider of Marianne Vos that responded to Emma Johansson. Emma Johansson from Sweden being the silver medalist in Rio this year, and Deignan just looking so comfortable there. Emma Johansson on the wheel, Marianne Vos and Ashley Mullman from South Africa. A fantastic ride by her.
She'll just want this race to be tough all the way from now to the finish, won't she, Lizzie?
And look at the Dutch. So Marianne Vos is there. She was in perfect position to launch a counter-attack. Didn't. Look behind. So they're now riding the defensive race, the kind of the blocking race. Whereas Team GB and Emma Johansson are trying to split it up and make it hard.
Now a regrouping once again as they're fanned out across the road here. Just over 10 kilometres to go.
Whoa.
And one of the Dutch riders on the right there has a little look at the front, but it's not a major acceleration. Just wondered whether there was an attack about to be launched there. But not so, as it turned out. They're a little bit further back. There's Danny King now at the back of the peloton. It was a great effort from her a couple of minutes ago. Who's out in the front? Is it Van der Breggen?
No, Marianne Vos, just controlling the race.
Well, we're looking for Kirsten Wild, and she seems to be positioned quite far down the back, but that won't be a panic for her because she can move to the front of the peloton quite quickly. This is Anna van der Breggen on the front, marked by one of the Finland riders. And Denmark up there as well, working for Didriksen.
So the Netherlands have enough riders still, and strong riders now, to control this all the way to the finish line, which I think is what their plan is, obviously.
Is that Corinne Rivera from the USA in the middle there with the dark glasses on? She's going to be worth watching as well, isn't she, potentially, if it comes down to a sprint, as it may well do. Anna van der Breggen leads them around the latest roundabout. 10 kilometres remaining in the World Championship road race for elite women. And a little bit further back is Annesley Park there from Great Britain. But GB have ridden very, very well here.
They certainly have had a tactically brilliant race, and Lizzie Deignan's come into this race with great form, which is quite surprising after she's had such a turmoil, emotional season and the peak at the Olympic Games, and to be able to hold it all together, come here and win a world title in the team time trial, and then back up a few days later to be in really, really top form is really impressive.
Hannah Barnes, despite that effort she made a couple of minutes ago, has come back up alongside Lizzie now in the main field up towards the front. And as you can see, when the pace is high, they're strung out. The Dutch are not in a bad position at all here now, though, once again.
Well, I think Van der Breggen now will just go as long as she can, so she'll just... They're not chasing anybody now, so they've got the control. Van der Breggen is the first person on the road, if you like, so she doesn't have to ride faster. She just has to sit at a pace that she can maintain for as long as possible and try and put off attacks, so people just get deterred from doing it because they can see the Olympic champion sitting there just controlling the race now.
Still haven't seen anything of Chloe Hosking, which may well be a good thing from an Australian point of view.
She's definitely in there and very comfortable with Tiffany Cromwell sitting just in front of her, looking after her. And yesterday I was out riding on the circuit and I heard this toot toot coming behind me, and it was sure enough Tiffany Cromwell with her teammates on her wheel, just doing a lead out, flying through a roundabout. So they've done a couple of practice runs and they do look very comfortable. The Australians, they're together in the middle of the peloton there. Chloe Hosking looks super, super relaxed.
Sure, just got a sighting of Annesley Parker and Abby May Parkinson in the front group here, a little bit further back, but
she's done a great ride.
Yeah, exactly. It's two of our younger riders who are still at the business end of the race.
Yeah, first senior worlds, if you like.
Well, we're not going to have to wait too long for the finish now. The tension mounts. And maybe Lisa Brennauer is feeling quite good as well, because Germany are prominent.
Well, Lisa Brenner was there in second wheel just behind that German rider, and she does look quite relaxed and confident, and she's had some really good sprints in the past. And Trixie Warwick coming up now.
Yeah, she's the smaller of the German riders physically.
Yeah, and looks like they're protecting Lisa Brenner there. So she has won bunch sprints before, Lisa, and an outside chance for winning this World Championship, and she looks quite comfortable and well positioned.
Haven't seen Kirsten Wild for a while, but the Dutch are congregating on the right-hand side of the road, and no doubt she will be among them. That's Van Vleuten, I think, on the front there at the moment, just throwing that bottle away.
Yeah, she just needs to go on that side of the road. And then
you can see Kirsten Wild on the left-hand side.
They're just getting themselves all lined up, the Dutch, getting ready for what? They don't need to lead out yet. I mean, in theory, I guess that's why they pulled off Van der Breggen, because there's no point in her riding on the front and wasting energy when they can use her later on for the final lead out. So they're just going to sit there, and the idea of this now is you just hold that side of the road and just protect yourselves and don't let yourselves get swamped, because sometimes the most difficult situation is trying to get all your teammates together. Now, they've done that 7.8 Ks out.
They'll like their chances now, won't they, the Dutch, here in this race?
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Look at them lined up. I mean, there's good discipline already, having them all lined up there. We know that they had 3 riders in the top 14 in the time trial, and we've seen how active. Now, they did burn a lot of matches early on in the race with the constant attacking, but that was also indicative of them being so strong.
Do you think Jolien D'Hoor's got a strong enough train, or will she just try to hang in with the Dutch?
Oh, look, she's not going to be able to rely on her Belgium teammates when it comes to the final kilometres now. She has had some support mentally. Obviously, we've seen the Belgium riders go to the front when there's been a break, so that would have been good for Jolien D'Hoor's mental state to know that her teammates have worked for her today, and she's now, it's all up to her by herself just to surf some wheels, and she's got one of the most powerful kicks in this peloton, so she will be feeling quite confident as she comes into the finish. But for a rider that doesn't have so many teammates, it's often the fight that you have to win before the sprint, whereas Kirsten Wild will stay very relaxed with a lot of Dutch riders around her and just float through the wheels of her teammates. Jolien D'Hoor will need to fight very, very hard for position.
And going back to the radios again, this is where radios are really useful, because you can get your teammates together. You can tell them what to do. Kirsten Wild can tell them what she wants from them. It's all a lot easier, because it's very hard to shout that out, to actually share that when you haven't got the radios, without giving away your tactics as well.
Still a big group here, not far from the finish now.
Well, I love to see a big bunch sprint, and I'm getting quite nervous and my heart rate just started to rise, because this is going to be a really exciting sprint.
Danny King's just got a second wind, or is it a third wind or fourth wind or fifth even, because she's there doing some great work for Lizzie Deignan once again, up towards the front.
That's brilliant. She did that massive attack. So we saw the damage it did to the peloton, and then rightfully so, she needed about 5 Ks to recover. We saw her at the back of the peloton, but goes to show just how loyal she is and how professional she is, the fact she's come straight back up to her and helped Lizzie.
Psychologically a strong showing for the others to deal with, though, from the Dutch now, with Van Vleuten and Van Dijk on the front of that Dutch train. That's
going to deter attacks. I mean, because you know the amount of power they have to bring back anything. Everybody knows their tactic now. They're all in for the sprint.
And the Italians as well, towards the right of the picture, just starting to move forward. Prominently white jerseys with blue shorts. Marta Bastianelli, Barbara Guarasci, Elisa Longo Borghini, riders who could feature towards the end. But the Dutch have got control of this peloton at the moment.
Well, Kirsten Wild has the wheel of Marianne Vos, so that's going to be the last lead out rider.
That's about as good as you can get, isn't it?
Absolutely, and this is why this team on paper, take a look at them, they're strung out there. They really are the strongest team. Everybody said it would take a big mistake for them to be beaten here at the World Championships, but you have the likes of Chloe Hosking, Jolien D'Hoor, very fast sprinters that are in there. But Kirsten Wild, you'd have to say she's the clear favourite. When you take a look at this, 5.6 kilometres to go, this is an impressive ride by the Netherlands.
Now, will anybody else try and muscle their way in here and try and knock the Dutch out of their stride? Has anyone got the ability to do that?
Not really. I mean, I think the only thing you can do is try and hijack it. So there's no point in trying to match them, like trying to ride up and do the kind of the parallel train, because you're just going to get outgunned. So you may as well let them do all the work and then just save it for the last 800 metres.
See the Italians lining up on the left-hand side of the road on our picture. There's about 4 of them up there towards the front.
Oh.
Just slowly inching their way to the pointy end of the race. There they are. And Danny King's not giving way. She's still there in the middle of the picture in the dark glasses there for Great Britain. What a stint from her today. Hannah Barnes up there as well, towards the right at the front.
So not quite as disciplined Team GB right now, and when you compare them to the Netherlands and Italy coming up, but they do just need... Lizzie is a very cool customer, we've mentioned that a few times, and she'll just be profiting all this off all the other teams' work at the moment. But she is going to need Hannah Barnes and Danny King for that final bit of placing in that last K&a-half. Because she doesn't want to put herself in the red trying to position, because if she does that then she won't be able to sprint, so she needs those teammates to do the hard graft of the positioning, and then she can then sprint it out.
I think Lizzie Deignan is just near Danny King at the moment. Well, probably about 15th, 20th position, something like that. I think that was where she is. Yeah, I think she's on. Yeah, I think she's in there somewhere, maybe on Danny King's wheel.
Oh, look, the Dutch are looking so strong. With only 4.4 kilometres to go and having that many riders, it looks like the peloton's nearly just handed it to them, and or just hoping that they make a really big mistake. But they've really got things under control here.
They have, and we know how strong their riders are, and they're riding it so disciplined. I mean, they still look completely in control. We saw even in the Espoirs race, you saw this French guys heading out way too early. You often see lead-outs being messed up, but this is a lead-out. This is a pure textbook at the moment.
4 kilometres to go then in the elite women's road race at the World Championships here in Doha, and the Dutch, as you can see, dominating proceedings now, hoping that one of their riders can claim the rainbow jersey. But Australia now start to come towards the front. They've got Chloe Hosking in their team, and Great Britain as well working hard.
That's Lizzie coming up on the left, so Lizzie's being brought up by Danny King again.
So what a valuable rider in Danny King. She's just been there all the way to the finish today. This has been a very impressively strong
ride. She's taking on the Dutch. Look,
yeah.
So
great stuff from Danny King from start to finish today.
So GB have just sort of swamped, so they are going to try and match the Netherlands. So that's now Team GB and Netherlands next to each other drag racing.
Oh, 3.5 kilometres to go. You've got Kirsten Wild for the Netherlands, Lizzie Deignan for GB in there looking good. The Canadians are there as well. The Australians have just dropped back a little bit, but they were looking good for Chloe Hosking. Then you've got the one-out rider, Jolien Daughter, also trying to get into position there.
And that's
Corinne Rivera for USA as well. I think she's just freewheeling among all the others. She's going to have to sort herself out in the sprint by the looks of things at the moment.
The same for Lizzie now. Lizzie's now isolated, so Danny did a fantastic job but has dropped back, and now she managed to get Lizzie into position. Lizzie's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wheel, so that's a good position to be in at the moment, because that train from the Netherlands isn't going to slow down.
Now, is that Marta Bastianelli who's in there for Italy as well?
It looks like it might be Cadurzo looking around for Bastianelli, but Marianne Vos also taking a look for Kirsten Wild. You see the 4 Dutch riders on the front, and Marianne Vos there in 4th position, but Kirsten Wild just dropped back a few places with 2.7 kilometres to go. The Dutch team looking for their sprinter Kirsten Wild, but
there's Lizzie pushing through. So Lizzie just pushing through the middle. She's on the 4th position now. She saw, I think it was, couldn't see which team was coming up and was going to swamp her, so she managed to punch out just in time before she got caught up.
Always alert to danger. Lizzie Deignan, Trixie Worak working hard for Germany. Lisa Brennauer is on her wheel, bunched up at the front of the race here. It's really on now with 2.3 kilometres to go.
Well, look, there's not even many riders that can hold the pace now with the Dutch on the front. And
that's Armitstead there, just beyond the 4, just behind the 4 Dutch riders at the front on the right.
And she's giving the Italian rider a couple of little touches there with her shoulder.
Well, she looks very comfortable, Lizzie Deignan. She has all race. She's been so cool, and she's in a very good position here with 2 kilometres to go.
Looks like Ellen van Dijk on the front for the Netherlands at the moment. Big, strong, powerful rider. That'll make everybody else's legs really, really hurt now. Marianne Vos third in line, Kirsten Wild fourth in line. That must be Lotta Lepisto from Finland on her wheel. That's a good spot for her to be. And Lizzie Deignan now about maybe seventh, eighth in line, something like that, on the right-hand side of the road.
There she's got a perfect wheel again, she's getting brought up. So the Italian rider's just trying to get in the way of the Dutch train there. And, but Lizzie is currently still in a great position, although she's having to fight hard to hold that position. She can't relax for a second. She's having to keep bang and push her way around.
1.5 kilometres to go. The Netherlands on the front. Oh, there's nearly a crash there. One of the Italian riders did very, very well to stay upright.
Oh, it's caused a little bit of a panic in the peloton there, but 1.4 kilometres to go. The Dutch are very much in control of this. They've still got 4 riders there lined out. It's been very difficult for any riders to come up and match them, but now the Italians try to make a move. We haven't seen much of the Australians, with Chloe Hosking just dropping back. She was so confident coming into this World Championship.
Yeah, the Australians have got work to do here because they're not up towards the front at the moment as they go into the final kilometre. And Lizzie Deignan is still
sixth wheel,
about 6th on the road now. They're inside the final kilometre now. Lizzie Deignan defending her world crown, won in Richmond a year ago, but she's got a lot to do to make that happen now because the Dutch are in a great position, but Lizzie Deignan working hard to hold the wheels. She's about 6th in line.
Oh, it's going to be so hard to beat Kirsten Wild after this display from the Dutch. It's been a textbook finish so far.
It's 500 metres to go now, so they've got about another couple of 100 metres, and then they'll see the finish line for the first time.
Well, they're not far away now. Final few hundred metres of this race. The Dutch are in pole position here. Lisa Brennauer goes around the outside, but the lead out looks good for the Dutch at the moment. Bastianelli's hanging in there. Lotta Lepisto is there as well, and Lizzie Deignan has just fallen away from the front a little bit now. Marianne Vos hits the front, and here comes Kirsten Wild for the Netherlands. Kirsten Wild up towards the line. She was the big favourite. Can she claim the world title, or will she be pipped on the line? It's desperately, desperately close on the line. So close as they cross the line. And it may be Didriksen of Denmark, the 2-time world junior champion, who pushed really, really hard, and I think may well have pipped the big favourite Kirsten Wild on the line. What a ride from the Danish youngster. That was extraordinary.
She's got it, Didriksen. We said that she had this great result at Bolstolmans and she was an outside chance for the victory today, and that was a very, very impressive sprint. Kirsten Wild will be absolutely devastated after that work from the Netherlands. There's Chloe Hosking, the Australian, and Jolien Dora, but Lizzie Deignan also congratulating this ride, Didriksen.
Didriksen's got it. Amelie Didriksen is the new world champion. Kirsten Wild takes the silver. Lotta Lepisto of Finland the third. And Lizzie Deignan from Great Britain is 4th, just outside the medals. Marta Bastianelli of Italy 5th. Roxane Fournier of France is 6th. Chloe Hosking, one of the big favourites from Australia, is 7th. But it's all about that rider there, Amelie Didriksen, and the big favourite Kirsten Wild. We saw her win the Tour de Yorkshire. We saw her win Le Classique on the Mall. We saw her put in prime position by her teammates today, but in the end she didn't quite have the legs to get over the line in first place.
Oh, she is so disappointed, Kirsten Wild, but Didriksen, she was an outside chance, and what a fine sprint. Lotta Lepisto in 3rd place for Finland. These are riders that have shown potential all season and not particularly had a strong team, the Danish or the Finland riders, but...
this is Marianne Vos in the lead out. Marianne Vos did a fantastic lead out. You can see it's Kirsten Wild in 2nd place. Didriksen somehow managed to get on the wheel that everybody wanted, which is what you had to do if you want to win. There's Lizzie in 4th place, holding strong, and it didn't essentially change much the finish line. You can see, look, but Didriksen, the ride she does to come off Kirsten Wild, I mean, you know, Rochelle, it's so hard to do, and she does it, and she fights all the way through. And there comes Lizzie coming up on the right, just getting up to 4th place.
What a ride by Amelie Didriksen. Yeah, you're right, David. There are not many people who have got the ability to come past Kirsten Wild in a situation like that after a lead-out like that.
It's a remarkable performance.
Well, she was the world junior champion in 13 and 14. But my goodness me, what a step up.
Oh, this year she concentrated on the Olympic Games, and as we said in the Omnium, she was a little bit disappointed to be off the podium, but she showed in the last events of the Omnium, especially the points race, that she's a phenomenal athlete, just lapping and lapping and lapping the field.
And just look at her face there as she was coming up towards the line. It was as though to say, I've got this, everyone, I've got this, don't worry, it's all in hand.
Oh, she looked completely in control. Look at the grimaces on everybody else, and she looked really relaxed. And one of the things as well, it's not just about being the fastest sprinter, but being so young and being on the favourites' wheel with 200 metres to go. I mean, that's incredible. There's Lizzie actually giving the congratulations, and Didrikson doing the same salute as Lizzie last year.
They ride on the same professional team, and I'm sure Lizzie Deignan not surprised with the performance of Didrikson to take this world title. But her teammate there, Julie Leth, she is absolutely ecstatic. She can't believe it for her teammate.
And can I say as well, I just think that fourth place, just pipped there in the sprint for the line on a course like this for Lizzie Deignan. That was a really, really impressive defence of the world title.
Oh, she's just proven again and again, Lizzie Deignan, that she is just a class bike rider. She rises to the occasion. When she puts a number on her back, she just races. Like she said, she won a world title just a few days ago here in the team time trial. She's had a very, very emotional, difficult season, but just to be still at the end of the season in that kind of fitness level, you're really a phenomenal performance by the whole GB team, especially Denny King and Hannah Barnes. They were very impressive today.
There we are, that's a new world champion. She's just 20 years of age, Amelie Didrikson from Denmark. And there's confirmation of the result. Didrikson claiming the world title. Kirsten Wild will be very, very disappointed with the silver medal. And Lotte Lepisto, I think, will be very happy with the bronze for Finland. And Lizzie Deignan from Great Britain finishing in 4th place, just ahead of Marta Bastianelli from Italy.
Many congratulations. How does it feel to wear that rainbow jersey?
It's amazing. I hope really bad for a top 10 and just stand here with the jersey. It's incredible. My teammate did such an amazing job. We're a small team, only 3 riders, and they kept me with, they gave me bottles, and when I crashed, they brought me back. I'd like to say a big thank you to them, and I'm just really happy.